Hello and welcome to the craft of writing. This is kind of a funny module and it's module C, and it kind of often gets sprinkled in amongst other units, which makes it hard to keep track on what the focus is supposed to be. But let's look at what you're supposed to do in module C to give you an idea of where we're going. Okay, so this is from the rubric, and remember we always use the rubric because that is what focuses the unit, and that's probably what they're going to write exam questions from. In fact, it's definitely going to write what they're going to write exam questions from. So let's check it out and work out what it's actually asking us to do. In this module, students strengthen and extend their knowledge, skills, and confidence as writers. They write for a range of authentic audiences and purposes to convey ideas with power and increasing precision. All that really means is that you are going to become better at writing. That's the whole focus, is just writing well. This is a great module because it improves all your other modules as well. It improves all your other subjects that involve writing. So it's really, really helpful, and it's a really good way to consolidate all of the things that you've been learning and all of the improvements that you've made. Students appreciate, examine, and analyze at least 2 challenging short prescribed texts, as well as text from their own wide reading as models and stimulus for the development of their own ideas and written expression. This means that you're going to study at least 2 challenging texts and use them to improve your own writing. So we're going to be looking at probably more than 2 core texts that are kind of exemplars, are really good examples of great writing, and look at what they're doing and unpack what they're doing and use that as modeling to improve how you write. They examine how writers of complex texts use language creatively and imaginatively for a range of purposes, to describe the world around them, evoke emotion, shape a perspective, or to share a vision. What we're talking about here is there's going to be a focus on how language creates setting and atmosphere, the world of the story, emotional response, a particular perspective, and the writer's unique vision, and how all of those things go together to achieve the purpose of the story, whatever that purpose might be. Through the study of texts drawn from enduring quality texts of the past, as well as from recognized contemporary works, students appreciate, analyze, and assess the importance and power of language. What this means is that you're supposed to be studying quality texts here. That's all it really means. Through a considered appraisal of an imaginative engagement with these texts, students reflect on the complex and recursive process of writing to further develop their ability to apply their knowledge of textual forms and features in their own sustained and cohesive compositions. Nearly ran out of breath for that sentence, but here's what it looks like. What it means is that you're going to be using the text to write better and reflect on your process of writing. And you're going to use language techniques and narrative structure a bunch. So brush up on your narrative structure and brush up on your language techniques, because they're going to be really, really important as we move forward. You're going to need to be integrating those throughout your writing, as well as looking at how you can play with structure to be really effective. The process of writing in terms of how it's outlined in this unit is actually fairly clear. So we have pre-writing and then drafting and then revising and then editing, and it's unusual for an English module, and it actually kind of lays out those steps pretty clearly for us in terms of how to follow them. So it's kind of refreshing in a sense that they're being really clear about what we're supposed to be doing. Now, the word recursive you noticed in there as well. That word recursive essentially for this purpose means that each step leads on to the next step, but you might need to go backwards as well. You're constantly moving between these steps. You're repeating steps. You're shifting from writing to editing to revising to pre-writing as you go back and you think about what you're going to say. So all of these steps are going to be interacting and working with each other. So what this means is you're not done when you hit the word count. Ticking over from 999 words to 1,000 does not mean you're finished. You're done when it's good. You've done when you've gone through the process of revising and editing and making it better and producing something that you're actually proud of, not just because you want to tick a box on an HSC assessment task, but because you want to create something that actually makes a difference in the world and inspires people and helps people and puts forward your unique perspective, your story, and your vision into the world. It's not just about pumping something out for drivel and hoping that Nessa likes it. Write something to be proud of in this unit. You've got the space and you've got the scope to do it. So challenge yourself and create something really special. Back to the rubric. During the pre-writing stage, students generate and explore ideas through discussion and speculations. Throughout the stages of drafting and revising, students experiment with a range of language forms and features. For example, imagery, rhetoric, voice, characterization, point of view, dialogue, and tone. Students consider purpose and audience to carefully shape meaning. So they're actually outlining what you're supposed to do in each of the stages of writing, which is kind of cool. So in pre-writing, we've got things like idea generation, brainstorming, research, and then drafting is actually writing the piece, getting the words on the page, turning a blank piece of paper into something interesting that can get inside somebody else's head and make them feel what you want them to feel. That's really cool. And then revising is making it the best it can be. So looking at the ideas, does this say what I want it to say? Structurally, is everything in the best order? Is there a better structural way to tell this story? The language that you use, have I used language effectively to move people and inspire people and communicate what I want to communicate? So imagery, rhetoric, voice, characterization, point of view, language, dialogue, tone, and all the other language techniques that you've looked at throughout high school and potentially primary school, they're all coming into play now to create something that you're really proud of. During the editing stages, students apply the conventions of syntax, spelling, punctuation, and grammar appropriately and effectively for publication. This is the editing process. So editing is different to revising. Revising is making it really good and really clear and communicating really well. And then editing is making it polished and making sure that things like spelling, grammar, sentence structure, all those things don't inhibit the meaning by being incorrect. Mistakes in that can really inhibit the clarity of what you're trying to say. So being really careful to present your ideas the very best way that they can and to give them the most chance to really impress on people what it is you want to tell them. Finally, students have opportunities to work independently and collaboratively to reflect, refine, and strengthen their own skills in producing crafted, imaginative, discursive, persuasive, and informative texts. They're all the different kind of texts that we've looked at throughout high school, but here's what you're going to be doing as well. You need to be able to write about why you did what you did, reflecting on your process and not just because Nessa told me so. Why did you make the language choices that you made? Why did you make the structural choices? How did you take the stories that we study and use them to inform your own writing? This is a really reflective process. So you need to be really conscious of your thinking throughout this. Why have I made these decisions? Why am I trying to say this? And why am I using language in this way in order to communicate what I want to communicate? So ultimately, what am I going to do? This whole unit boils down to three things. Number one, we're going to read stories looking for what the authors have done. Number two, we're going to write stories using similar strategies. And then number three, you need to explain what you did and why you did it. Those three things. We're going to be reading, writing, and reflecting. So let's dive in.